This is Brenna Jasper again with the Menominee Police Department. We are here with our second video about human trafficking, along with our friends from the Bridge to Hope again. So we've got Angie, Kat, and Kelly joining us. If you missed our first video, it was on myths and realities of human trafficking. It is found on our Facebook page and also on YouTube. So check that out if you would like that information. But we are now going to focus in on basically how folks might be recruited or groomed into trafficking in the first place, and then also what to look for, how to know if maybe a friend or a loved one is at risk of being trafficked. So, Kelly, you can take it away.
So the first thing that has to happen is you have to have a victim. So there's some pretty easy ways to find victims for a lot of things these days. To start grooming, you find somebody. You can find a lot of people on different social media apps. Social media is so widespread, you can find someone from anywhere. There's many common sites that we all use on a day-to-day basis that we're not even thinking about, but they're being used as a human trafficking means. A lot of the games that some of you might want to be aware of, especially if you have children, kids are playing Fortnite, they're on Roblox, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. These are all sites where you talk to other people where you may not know these people. Now you can, as a parent, you can go on them and you can create some restrictions for your kids. However, a lot of parents aren't aware of the fact that their kids are talking to people on there that they typically think maybe is someone of a similar age to them. That person may be portraying that they are of a similar age, but they could be talking to an adult person looking to find a victim. So they target a victim. They're looking for someone who seems to have not as much supervision maybe on the internet or online. They're looking for someone who is maybe on there frequently, who might start sharing personal information about themselves, such as something's wrong in their lives, they're missing something, and then that trafficker will link in on that and will start to try to relate to that victim. So now they've targeted their victim. They have somebody who's coming across as vulnerable or who needs something from them, and they know what they can do to get into that. They start by gaining trust and gathering more information. The more you know about a person and their personal information in their life, the easier it is for you to gain trust about them. Now, all of a sudden, your victim feels as if they have somebody in their lives that understands them, understands what they're going through, understands what they need. They're filling a need for that victim. You have sites such as Instagram. It seems typically fairly innocent. However, I've learned there's something called Instagram Live. On Instagram Live, I can go live and record something that I'm doing similar to Facebook Live. However, I can either share that with somebody who's maybe one-on-one, or I can do it with a group or as a whole thing on my Instagram and post it. I can also link in with other people that do Instagram Live at the same time I'm doing it. So we can make videos together and talk and chat back and forth without ever being in the same space. Other things that you need to be aware of is sites such as Snapchat, dating apps, such as Tinder. I know that stuff like Match.com, Plenty of Fish, they have these geolinks which link your location to where you are. If you have your location services on, somebody else can see where you are and where you're posting from. So one thing to be aware of is if you have your location services turned on these apps, people can see where you're at. It's easy for them to find you. It's easy for them to be in the same location as you. And it's easy for them to come and track you down. So not to scare people away from that, but there is some precautions you need to take when you're using social media or dating apps. Dating apps are typically going to be aimed at a little bit of an older age, probably 18 plus. However, I believe on Tinder, you can be younger than that, and you're just seeking out people of a similar age, and you fill in the information of what you're looking for and the location where you're at and what you're looking for. Part of these thrive on location services because they're trying to match you with somebody who's close to you, but someone who's looking to victimize an individual is going to use that as a means to find their person that they're going to link to and try to turn into a trafficking victim.
There's been local incidents and examples of that happening, correct? Like people connecting via social media or a gaming app and then getting into a trafficking situation, correct?
We have most definitely had situations that are very close to that. And without getting into too much information, because some of them are possibly still in the court systems, we've had situations where people are linking up with juveniles or very young people, particularly TikTok is a big thing now with kids. They like watching the videos, they like seeing what's on there. And you can all of a sudden start talking with these people. And we've had people come from other states to meet juveniles in our city with ill intentions for those juveniles. Fortunately and thankfully, the police were able to intervene at a situation where these people were not taken out of state or removed from the area where we were unsure where they were going to. However, these young individuals connected with a person on a social media app, felt that they knew this person because this person took advantage of the information they gathered and they knew how to manipulate the situation. And they were adults that came here with bad intentions to interact with younger people. And they can do that also with adults, vulnerable adults who are in a bad situation.
So next we're going to talk a little bit about the risk factors of human trafficking victims. There are several. One of the biggest risk factors is lack of family support and supervision, especially right now during COVID. Parents have to work. That's not really a choice. So kiddos are left at home unsupervised online all day doing virtual school and playing virtual games, and the parents don't have any idea of what's going on. Another big risk factor is children or young teens that are in the LGBTQ community, typically, especially if it's not supported within their family homes. A lot of times kids tend to run away or they are lost in the foster care system. And so they're really, that population is targeted quite often. Other folks that tend to be targeted are those in poverty or those people that have been victims before, such as victims of sexual assault or domestic violence. Victims tend to have lower self-esteem or self-worth, and so they're easy targets. I hate to say it that way, but we tend to walk with our head down. We seek approval from outside sources, like on social media, asking people if we look pretty. We start talking about how lonely we feel, and so we're easy to target. There's also systemic racism that plays a fact in human trafficking. One of the largest populations of trafficking victims are Indigenous women, and a lot of times they're most at risk because they have a lack of access to education, employment, housing, simple things like access to credit that a lot of us take for granted. Other risk factors are also those with mental illness or substance abuse issues. Those folks tend to, especially substance abuse issues, you can get people hooked on drugs very easily, especially trafficking victims, and that's how victims tend to stay with their trafficker. They use drugs, they get them addicted, and then they need to keep doing that for their next fix. So they're a typical place that you might find traffickers looking or targeting are places like treatment centers or transitional housing for sober living. I've actually seen in Florida, there was a big sting because victims were being targeted at their sober living houses and their transitional housing. And so the traffickers would find them and then they would get them addicted again to drugs, and then they would pay their rent or get them the things that they need, because most of the time they were homeless or didn't have food, clothing, things like that. Those are a lot of the risk factors that we see, and especially in rural communities where our young people are stuck at home, not able to leave right now. They get promises to go to the big city.
When it comes to warning signs that you want to look out for human trafficking, there are a few red flags that you might want to keep an eye out for. One of them being isolation, whether that be physical isolation or technology. People might be in a community that they're not familiar with, physically separated from their support network and the people that they know. Or it might, like I said, be a technology issue. They might have limited access or no access to phones or computers or internet. They might be cut off from communicating with other people. Their activities may be monitored by their trafficker. Another thing that you might want to look out for is somebody might have intentional scarring or tattooing to signify loyalty or like a branding in a sense to their trafficker. These might be like, they might come in different forms, such as tattoos of crowns or money bags. One other very important point I want to touch on here is people lacking important documents. So maybe they don't have any ID, they don't have their birth certificate, their social security, any of those big things that people should have access to, their traffickers might be holding from them. Along with this as well, people might have their medications withheld from them, especially when it comes to reproductive care, people's birth control and medical access. They might be cut off from having their medical issues or dental issues examined and treated, because of course that might give away their situation to somebody who's a mandated reporter and required to make a report about the situation. People may also have expensive, high-end luxury items that it doesn't really make sense where those things are coming from. They might not have an identifiable source of income that would make sense with the quality of the items that they have. So, name brands and expensive things. They might have like a burner phone or accounts that they're not allowing other people access to or not allowing people in their personal lives to see, kind of hiding what's happening behind the scenes. And then also people might not be engaged in their typical activities. They might be truant from school or work, not showing up where they usually would be. They're going to stop engaging in the things that they usually love to do, whether that be sports or their church or any other kind of clubs, things like that they would usually be engaging in. They will often stop showing up to those things, again, being isolated from the things that they enjoy.
All right, thanks for watching again. As a reminder, this is video 2 of a 3-part series. The next video will talk a little bit about what you can do, how you can be an informed citizen about human trafficking, and then also what to do if you think somebody that you know, care about, come into contact with is in a trafficking situation. As always, we'll include some information about reaching the Bridge to Hope at the end of this video, and the police department as well. To reiterate what was said at the end of the last video, you can reach out to the Bridge and it's totally confidential, and they do not relay it to law enforcement without your consent. And it's also free.